So good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Reshma Ranade, Fellow in Cataract, Refractive Optics and Clinical Research at Narayan Nethralaya, and I'm here to talk on decentered ablation and small zone management. So without further ado, I take this humble opportunity to introduce to you all our DEAL nomogram, where D stands for decentration, evaluation, and applying laser for correction. So let's go back to basics and check what decentered ablation means. So this is optical axis, which is a line extending from the anterior to the posterior pole of the eye and taking into account the centers of the crystalline lens in the cornea. Now, an ablation is said to be decentered when the center of the ablation does not correspond to the center of the optical axis. Now, having said that, if a patient comes to us with glare, halos, and difficulty in night vision with a history of refractive surgery, we at our center first do a thorough workup, which is replete with the refraction, the dry eye evaluation, the non-strabismic binocular single vision evaluation with a binocular assessment and orthoptics, the topography, epithelial mapping, taking a look at the aberrations, and the retinal examination. Now, what I need to highlight here is that not every patient who has symptoms or not every patient who has a decentered ablation needs to be lasered. So in case the patient does not have any symptoms, in that case, you can observe the patient and you need not go ahead with a laser regularization procedure. But on the other hand, if the patient does present to you with glare, halos, and difficulty in vision, and you have a topographic diagnosis of a decentered ablation, the first and the foremost thing which would be to rule out a dry eye. So having said that, our dry eye assessment consists of assessment of the tear film, the epithelial mapping, meibography, the Schirmer's test, and the tear film breakup time. And if any of these are found to be abnormal and we make a diagnosis of dry eye, we need to treat it first. So our treatment regimen consists of doxycycline, then low dose steroids and tapering doses, and a high viscosity agent like sodium hyaluronate and the topical immunomodulators like cyclosporin. Regardless to say, the modern dry eye therapy devices like the vector pulsation therapy do play an important role. Now, once you have ruled out a dry eye and the patient has a decentered ablation, you can subject the patient to a contact lens trial, because that is going to tell you whether he's going to improve whether there is going to be an improvement in his symptoms or not. So if at all he improves with his symptoms, then you can go ahead and treat him with glasses or contact lenses. But in case your patient is unhappy or he's unwilling for glasses, in that case, you can probably offer him the option of a regularization procedure. But on the other hand, if there is no improvement in his symptoms, then you probably need to dig a little deeper and assess his lens status. Now, what are the tools that we have to check the lens status? So we have the dysfunctional lens index, we have the pentacam nuclear staging, and we also take a look at the internal aberrations in the Nidec OPD3. So if you have a poor DLI and a higher PNS and higher internal aberrations, you may probably have to go ahead with a lens-based approach. On the other hand, if you have a good DLI and the PNS staging is normal with normal internal aberrations, it would probably warrant an orthoptic evaluation. So coming to the orthoptic evaluation, that is going to tell you whether the patient has a Vergen's disorder or it is an accommodative problem. So in that case, you need to treat him further first with office-based and home-based therapies. Now, this is a slide which explains about the normal accommodation of the lens and the abnormal accommodation. Now, going ahead with a lens-based procedure in case we have a poor DLI and a high PNS and higher internal aberrations. Now, when will you plan a lens-based procedure? So if at all the decentration is more than 0.5 millimeters, the higher order aberrations are more than 1 micron, the coma is more than 0.75 microns, and you see an irregular or a broad-based histogram on the EKR, that suggests that you should probably regularize the cornea before you treat the cataract. Now, the question here is, would you want to treat the cornea first or would you want to go ahead with the cataract surgery first? So we all know that the dynamics of the eye would change once you do a laser ablative procedure. And so that change in the keratometry reading would be accounted for when you plan the intraocular lens power and you choose the power of the IOL that you need to implant in such a case. So it would definitely be better that you do the corneal customization first before you go ahead with the cataract surgery. Now let's look at a few case examples. So we had a 32-year-old lady who presented to us with a history of LASIK 2 years back, complaining of starburst and glare. On examination, she had a vision of 6/6 with the topography suggestive of a decentered ablation. So in this case, we found that while the quantity of her vision was restored, the quality was quite poor. Now we subjected her to a dry eye workup, which was replete with the Sherman's test, the meibography, the T-butt, and the corneal staining. And the optical scattering index was on the higher side with 6.4 with a poor vision breakup time. We treated her with sodium hyaluronate and cyclosporin for a period of 4 weeks and LipiFlow. And we found a significant improvement with an improvement in the OSI as well as an improved V-butt along with a happy patient. Let's look at another case. Now, this is a special case scenario wherein a decentered ablation was also with a cataract. So we had a 31-year-old gentleman with a history of LASIK done 3 years back with history of glare post-LASIK surgery. And the slit lamp evaluation showed a nuclear sclerosis of grade 2. Now, we planned a PRK procedure for this patient on the Schwind-Amaris software. And since he was to undergo a cataract surgery later, we treated a 0 refraction with the optical zone of 6.5. Now, the Schwind gave us a maximum ablation of 63 with a central ablation of 53. Now, we all know that the Schwind-Amaris software gives us an option of customizing the aberrations as well as minimizing the depth. So we went ahead and minimized the depth and treated the aberrations. And there was a significant decrease in the ablation after depth minimization. So we went ahead, treated him, and these were his comparative maps pre and post surgery. You can see that the EKR became better as compared to what it was before the custom ablation treatment. And after a stable topography was recorded, which we define as a change of less than 0.2 diopters in the mean K over 3 consecutive visits, we planned a cataract surgery for him. And we implanted a 24 diopters monofocal non-toric IOL using the ASCRS post-refractive surgery calculator. So to summarize here, I would say that the symptoms are more important than the signs. The contact lens trial will definitely help you identify whether there is an improvement in the symptoms or no. Do not underestimate the role of the orthoptics evaluation and binocular single vision assessment. Then planning the lasers and cataract surgery after customized laser correction. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reshma.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Reshma. That was wonderful. Great. Sujata, any questions? Good evening to you, Sujata. You're on mute. Sujata, you're on mute.
Excellent presentation, Reshma. It's a little bit over my head. I think I'll have to go through it again.
Good one. So, Reshma, you clean bowled everybody. So I guess you are too lucid and clear. Nobody has any questions. Dr. Ravindra, would you like to ask any question?
Yes, certainly. We look at pupil, we look at the lens, we forget to look at the pupil. Does pupil size has any significance? Like if the patient has a very small pupil, like a 2 mm pupil, which never dilates beyond 4 mm for some reason, would you still go ahead with the corneal surgery and then the lens, or would you prefer to? Have you done any study of similar patients where they've undergone your corneal fixing and then the lens surgery versus lens and reassessing them for their comfort levels or the results?
So, sir, we have, as we all know that the optical zone is calculated based on the mesopic pupil size. And so paying attention to the mesopic pupil size is definitely mandatory before we plan the procedure. So we have studied a series of cases where we have done the ablation, we have treated the corneas first and then gone ahead with the cataract surgery. And we have definitely better results. Sir.
Just one question. You had a case which you had treated for 53. Is it that deep for decentered ablation? The management of decentered ablation, one case which you showed, you had taken away 53 microns of the cornea. That was what you showed in your picture. It became a bit on the steeper side when you consider a patient who is having an ectasia or already a lasered eye. We normally do go that deep. Normally we do somewhere between 20 to 40, not beyond that. Dr. Reshma?
Ma'am, could you please repeat the question?
No.
I'm sorry.
One of your patients, which you had showed the case presentation,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
depth of ablation was 53 microns.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering whether it would be a good thing to do for a patient who's already undergone laser, probably having a post-LASIK ectasia. Is it a good thing to do to take away so much of tissue? Is that okay?
Ma'am, we consider a cutoff of 400, ma'am. And we also use a mitomycin C in 0.02% concentration after the procedure.
Okay.